Hello, Evil Dead fans, and welcome to Hail to the Chin, the podcast dedicated to the smash hit Stars show Ash vs. Evil Dead and the wider Evil Dead universe. Joining us today is what can be considered Evil Dead royalty. We have Scott Spiegel. Scott, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Aloha, amigos.
Hey!
Hello. How are you
Whatever that
doing
means.
today, sir? How are you doing?
Oh, fantastic. You guys are doing okay too, I hope?
Yeah.
We're
Yes.
yeah, we're great. Sam, did you want to kick us off with a great question?
Yeah, Scott, a good one to always start off with is or where did the Evil Dead journey start for you, from day one?
Um, it was in 1978, and I was standing in line to see a comedian named Martin Mull. This is when Steve Martin and Chevy Chase and all the comedians were taking over the world back in the late 70s. And Martin Mull hosted a show called Fernwood Tonight. He's been in My Bodyguard and innumerable movies. He's an incredible actor and comedian. And I remember Sam telling me this creepy story, which was essentially Evil Dead, or Within the Woods, if you will.
Yeah.
And ironically, it was a scene that ended up in Evil Dead 2. It was all that stuff with Bruce Campbell in the rocking chair and his girlfriend haunting him outside as a demon, and she's back from the dead and all this weird stuff. So in a strange way, he was telling me this very kind of, if you will, Richard Matheson-esque, kind of tale about, this dude alone in the cabin against the evil forces outside, a bit like I Am Legend, perhaps.
Yeah.
But it really creeped me out. I mean, ironic that we were going in to see, a comedian make us laugh. And then the next thing you know, Sam and I and Rob Tappert and Cheryl Gutteridge made this short little film called Clockwork in 1979.
Right.
And it was just to see if, we did a movie called It's Murder in 1978 that same year, which was a horror comedy mystery. I played Private Eye Dick Les, and Sam played this crazy old man in a wheelchair. And it was ridiculous. And Sam's in the wheelchair, and he's at the top of the stairs, this windy spiral staircase, and I'm at the bottom of the staircase. And I said, "Oh, hello," and he goes, "Good to see you. I'll be right down." I'm like, "No, wait, you're in your wheelchair!" And I'm like, "God, are you all right?" He goes, "That's all right. I landed on my head." I'm like, anyway, that was the level of. But in that silly comedy, we had a scare that was similar to the scare in John Carpenter's Halloween the very same year, but we were first, where the guy gets in the car and he's trying to start it, and the killer comes in from the back seat and attacks him and stuff, although William Castle did that scare in 1965, and I saw what you did, but I didn't see that at that time. So sometimes that happens, but anyway, it's all good, and that's where when we showed that movie, It's Murder, with all that silly comedy and stuff, that scared the whole audience jumped. And of course, 1970 was the year of Halloween, followed by 1979, and that was Alien and Friday the 13th and all these horror movies. They were unleashed, really, I think, because of Halloween's insane success. So we went in that direction because obviously you could do a low-budget horror film. I mean, comedy was so subjective, and there was quite a lot of talk. We had this group called the Metropolitan Film Group, Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell, myself, and a few others. But essentially, we were, what are we going to do? And so horror was obviously real big at the time, and you could do it real cheap. And horror, you chop somebody's head off, you're going to get that basic reaction. Tell a joke, do they get that in Britain? Is that too English? I know Johnny Carson was a bomb over in England. Yeah, Benny Hill was a huge success over here, worldwide, of course. He's one of my favorite comedians of all time. And because he's just plain funny. Anyway, but the thing is, comedy tastes are obviously very subjective. But horror, man, you blow somebody's heads, explodes, and you're going to get the same basic reaction. You're going to turn away. You're going to get a jump out of the people. So that's what happened. And then we went ahead and made Within the Woods, which was really cool, a small prototype. And that was great. I played Scotty in it and stuff, real big stretch for me. And I think Sam was just exploiting my general personality. Have at it, man. It was fun. It was a bunch of great stuff. And we made that in a few weekends, and it was great. I was working at a grocery store. I'd bring in the cherry pie filling and, maybe some of the meat parts and so on and so forth. And it was just great to work with Tom Sullivan and Ellen Sandweiss and Rob Tappert. And we shot it at Rob Tappert's, his parents owned a cool cottage up there, and that's where we shot Within the Woods. And so that was the prototype for Evil Dead. And then those guys went ahead and made Evil Dead. And I was supposed to play Scotty, but I don't know. I was working. I was going through my own thing. Am I going to go out on my own? Am I going to work with you? How's all this thing going to shake down? But I couldn't financially make the stretch to go out there anyway. They kept calling me too. Come on. I go, dude, I'm making $25,000 a year, and you're offering me what? Ta-da! Cut the tumbleweeds. And they were like, no, sorry. And I was frustrating. It was torturous, but. By the time they got back and they did the movie, I worked and got my friends to work in because they shot a lot of Evil Dead back in Michigan, ironically. Yeah. And that's where I could help out. And I was blowing oatmeal and worked on the meltdown scene in the first Evil Dead, and I brought a lot of meat parts. In fact, those effects were in Bart Pierce's basement where the effects were done. The stop motion effects and all the meltdown at the end of Evil Dead. But that was amazing to help out on there. And then when the guys did Crime Wave, I helped out a lot on that, which I think ultimately got me my gig to write Evil Dead 2 with Sam Raimi. And Crime Wave was a very tough shoot for the guys. Of course, I had a great time because I wasn't, that actively involved. I was more as a casting director of the extras and as an actor. Sam put me in every scene, so much to the detriment that Embassy Pictures got mad. You keep putting that Siegel kid in there. I love when they get my name kind of wrong. You got it wrong. I just started making me laugh. You keep putting that Siegel kid in there. I'm like, look, guys, I'm the least of your worries, Embassy, but that's all right. They gave Sam such a hard time. Oh my God! And Bruce was supposed to star in it, and then he got kicked out. Although Bruce is just one of the
he got kicked out.
He was supposed to star in Crime Wave, and they kicked him down to kind of a supporting role, but he stole the show anyway. So Bruce walks away with it anyway. So it was a real tough shoot. I had an incredible time, but there's Sam, and I was helping Sam out with the rewriting and helping stuff out, and that just kind of opened the door to Evil Dead 2, and which was just one of the most incredible writing experiences of my life. And just not only that, writing it, but writing it in the Coen brothers' house because Sam was renting the place with Joel and Ethan Coen, and then having roommates Fran McDormand and Holly Hunter, and I replaced Kathy Bates. She was staying where because she left, and I came in to write Evil Dead 2 with Sam. Excuse me. I have a frog in my throat from eating toadstools. I'm sorry. That was bad. Hello. So that was a really incredible
you wrote
time.
Evil Dead 2, man.
Oh no, I can't believe it. That's a weird, timeless thing. It was just, it was such a surreal experience happening. At Fran McDormand lent me her car, her little 1979 Chevette, and I tooled around Hollywood, and I got lost over at Warner Brothers. I saw this giant, huge billboard for Clint Eastwood's City Heat, and I thought, oh man, I'm in Hollywood. This is awesome. It was cool. A few years later, I had a movie up. My movie I wrote for Eastwood was up there. I was like, oh, all right, not bad. But I owe so much to Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell, and Rob Tappert. Those guys are absolutely the greatest, and I was so proud of them when they did Evil Dead because everybody's figuring out how we're going to do this. You guys are crazy. You can't go out and make a movie. You don't have enough. You don't. Yeah, and they just went and did it. And sure, they made a lot of mistakes, but somebody's always going to have to, break a few eggs there and stuff like that. But they came back, and it was a long process, but everybody helped and joined in. And in fact, Sam was on Evil Dead for so long. First, it was called Book of the Dead. And he went off, made this movie in November of '79. He was still shooting stuff as early as 1981, January or February, I think, if I'm not, I might be a little off on that, but it still was a few years. And then, of course, the movie underwent a title change. It became Evil Dead. And so people go to Sam, and Sam told me this, by the way. He's like, oh my God, you've got another film? Is it the Book of the Dead? He goes, no, it's the same one. And I it's just, and Sam said it with such good humor, but he does wish it was the second film just so he could get on with it. You know what I'm saying? But it was the slow burn. That film, I mean, it took quite a few years for it to really just make money for those guys, which is fantastic. Of course, it always did very incredibly well for me. I mean, that was a non-union gig, and I still get like weird foreign royalties. I'm not quite sure how they can figure that, but thank you, DGA. You guys are wonderful. I'm not going to call you up and say, where's this money coming from? I'll just cash the check. Thank you for looking out for me. But it's great. No, I love them. They're fantastic, and but it's all really cool. But I digress, gentlemen. I'm just got diarrhea in the mouth. I'm sure you have other things to ask me.
Okay. It was just funny because when you mentioned Chevy Chase, I was just thinking about the way kind of Hollywood goes now, that if you've got this breakthrough low budget horror film, and then you make a sequel. So if you were making like Evil Dead 2 now, like, well, back now, but also back then, I could imagine the Hollywood executives going, right, who's this Bruce Campbell? We don't know him. Get Chevy Chase as Ash. And I could actually see Chevy Chase playing Ash, actually, for some strange reason.
Oh, yeah, maybe like in his younger Saturday Night Live days.
Yeah,
when he did
yeah.
that movie Foul Play back in the late 70s. Yeah. Oh, interesting idea. Now, that's an interesting leap. Sure, why not? Interesting. You could see him doing it. 'Cause also thinking I'm channeling Caddyshack, too.
Yeah.
where Ash is kind of an a-hole, or kind of morphed into more of an a-hole as the series went on. I mean, belligerent a-hole, but kind of you just like Ash anyway somehow, just because you're going, I don't know how I'd react if I had that much crap thrown at me. You know, this is endless torture, Evil Dead demon stuff, and you're like, you know, what is Sam Raimi conspiring to do to Bruce now?
Because that kind of like raises the question as well, because obviously Evil Dead, it was a major factor in like the rise of VHS tapes and like how popular they were over here. And obviously when setting up for Evil Dead 2, what was the evolution of Ash's character? Because in the first film he was like we're stuck with this guy character, to the groovy chainsaw handed boomstick wielding macho arsehole hero. How did you sort of like change him like that, or what was the thought process?
Great. I'll give that to mostly Sam, of course. He was dictating it. I've told this story a bunch of times, but I had done a little comedy film about the hamburger helper helping hand. I don't think you have this product in England, but over here in America, it's kind of akin to the Pillsbury Doughboy. And if you've ever heard of that character, but there's the advertising characters, and it was a hamburger helper helping hand, and that attacked a housewife and did all the gag flipping of her off. She puts it and I did all those gags, and I think because Sam was brought up on obscenity charges in England on Evil Dead, you know that.
We remember the interview.
Yeah, and so that's really creepy, and I think part of making Evil Dead 2 more user friendly, i.e. why don't we put more of kind of like wacky humor? He goes, you know your film, you know, Attack of the Helping Hand? He's like, Ash is going to cut off his hand, and and when they're going to do those gags, oh, I get what movie you're making. You put Evil Dead plot meets Attack of the Helping Hand equals Evil Dead 2. I got it. Oh, okay. So that was really cool, and by doing that, I think, it opened it up to almost, you know, younger people and women especially, where they were really put off by that tree rape Vine scene. I'm like going, oh, okay, I thought that was pretty hardcore, but it's fantasy, but the way it's shot is very, I guess people are like, and I don't get it, but then again, I live in my weird, like, creative bubble, so, you know, and you kind of go, I just throw out ideas, and Sam goes, yes, no, yes, that's good, yes. I could, you know, I was just like, it's so weird, and it did really work like that. We would just throw stuff, like, you were working at that, we had that big typewriter back in the day, that electric typewriter, and a gooseneck lamp that's in that laughing scene in Evil Dead 2, where Bruce was, that's a lamp we wrote with, and I did a gag while we were writing, and I took that gooseneck lamp, and I went, and that laugh is in the movie too. But Sam did the laugh actually, but I do a good Popeye laugh. I can't help it, Harry. And then I did that, and Sam goes, we're going to use that in the movie, and then hence that scene was created. And I'm like, so, oh my God, I'm creating scenes, and that made me think, I better watch what I do around Sam. What if I do something that I go, oh, he's going to create a scene out of that? No way. So it was that kind of incredible, just a lot of, it was so creative and then just wild seeing Joel and Ethan Coen come in and out of the apartment. They were really renting the house as Blood Simple is taking off and their careers are being made in front of my eyes. It's pretty amazing stuff. It was really a great, incredible time. And just to have all that happen and all these people, and Holly Hunter, she was always in sweats and reading her scripts on a futon, and then one day she just had this mini skirt, and she looked incredibly just wonderful. I go, Holly, you look great, because I always saw her in sweats. She goes, I'm going to audition dressed as a prostitute. I don't take that as a compliment. I'm like, nah. But getting back to your idea, because this is all around that same time that The Road Warrior was such a huge hit, because you're mentioning of how Ash made the character level all of a sudden. Evil Dead 2, he's going groovy, and he's got his hair turns white like Mel Gibson's hair and Road Warrior. And that really was Sam's eye. I just kind of fell right into place. I went, oh, I totally get what you're doing. Oh, I see. That's really great. And nobody really catches on. Nobody catches that. Even at the time, I was kind of going, is somebody going to call? You stole that from Wildlife. No, it's an homage. It's an homage. But I always thought Bruce and Ash kind of morphed into Mel Gibson's character from The Road Warrior.
It's funny.
Look at The Road Warrior, how timid. Well, from my memory, my goodness, I was so wrong. We laughed because we saw the Americanized version. They thought that Australian accent's pretty harsh. Nobody will get it in America, so we'll dub them. Yeah, how whipped was that? Lame, but that was 1980. And we laughed because Mel Gibson, he's going to have to change his name if he wants to make it here in America. I was so wrong. But be that as it may, The Road Warrior is just my favorite of the. I haven't seen the third one or the fourth one. I'm behind, but I love the score to the third one. But I digress. Don't ask me how that happens. But Road Warrior is incredible, a huge influence on Evil Dead 2. But I don't think anybody really ever. I didn't, say anything. Maybe you guys, nobody's caught it, and that's okay too. I don't know.
Well, I've always sat there, and I've always thought if I was to pair two Hollywood characters together, I was always going to pair Ash Williams and Max Rokitansky together, and that's only just through similarity and just they felt that they were kind of the same at the core to me. So it's funny you say that. You mentioning Road Warrior, I was like, no fucking way.
Oh, I can still hear Sam imitating I remember The Road Warrior. That was a movie, and one of the rare movies I saw at 10 a.m. in the morning at a screening back in Detroit. I was like, boy, for some reason you remember, it has to be The Road Warrior. But boy, that movie still resonates in this day and age. And it's none of this Fast and Furious CGI car crash crap. I'm sorry. And I give credit to the Fast and Furious films, please. But I'm just saying, back in the day, I prefer old school, because you had to work harder and everything wasn't in focus when the car blew up and the tire came at you, and it's kind of looking more like a video game than a movie. But I'm just kind of unleashing that. Everybody can, shoot their film in 70 millimeter like my dear friend, the great Quentin Tarantino.
Now, Sam, a lot of people, it's renowned that Sam Raimi was torturous as hell to everybody on set. Now, speaking of someone from your point of view behind the camera, and the fact that you share clearly the same wackiness, did you ever partake in anything, or even how torturous were you towards the crew, the cast even, on Evil Dead 2?
Oh, me? No, I put on a suit of armor just for a few days, but it was cool. I got to hang out there when they were building the sets and everything. But I was treated like royalty, and all they could do is the line producer kept telling me, "You get Sam to reduce the cost of that scene." So I'm like, oh no, here we go. Hey man, I'm here for the creativity, man. I can't be concerned with budget. I'm the writer. I'm the co-writer, man. What's going on here? Leave me alone. It is an incredible vibe on the set, and Sam would have these softball games. I kind of missed some of those because I was only there maybe. At that point, I was there earlier when all the set was being built, so it was cool to go down there and seeing the cabin being built and everything.
Yeah.
And then we finished, and they started shooting for a few months, and then I came down there to be in the movie and to hang out for like 3 or 4 days, which was amazing. But it seemed like it was really just a great time and so innocent and just like I don't know, it just was very. It's just an incredible experience, both fun writing it and then writing it while the whole thing was kind of being built around us. It was amazing. Yeah, we shot it in the same area, I think, where they shot Color Purple, Spielberg's Color Purple.
All right.
Oh, interesting.
And which was really kind of cool there. And I think Wadesboro, North Carolina, and they converted a whole school. A whole school was the gym was our stage and our set. And then all the offices. It was really quite clever. Like they really got. It was just an amazing time. Really surreal in a way, but and then we got to make the movie we wanted. I mean, that was amazing. That was truly amazing. And Sam being very clever about the blood and going, if the demon has green blood, maybe that means they won't edit it as quickly as if it was red blood and all of these things. Although he was kind of doing that a little bit on Evil Dead. With the milk coming out of the demon's mouth. And...
What I did want to ask you, obviously, because you were one of the writers on Evil Dead 2, I want to ask you about the workshed line. I mean, because obviously when you were filming it, Ash, he sort of looks to past the camera and thinks, I'm going to go to the workshed. But adding that in, it's such a crazy scene. It's just where it was dubbed in, but it just sticks out like such a sore thumb.
I think it was. I mean, I'm looking back at it. I don't really know. That could have just been done in post. I did some voiceover for the demons and stuff like that was going to be temp to show Dino De Laurentiis, and it ended up in the movie. So I go, I thought maybe we'd do it again. I guess they liked it enough, and they went, okay. That whole workshed is so evocative of some of Bruce's delivery and Sam's genius to know that would be great. Because I think when Bruce worked with Kurt Russell on that Escape from L.A. movie, I think. He's like, my kids, you gotta do that line, workshed. It's like even Kurt Russell digs that line. And his kids, and it's like, what in the heck? So, but it seemed kind of like more of a post thing, but it's almost deliberate, but with a keen eye to kind of like, not quite, I hate that term, wink, wink, but it's just kind of like, just something to make it a little like surreal or something. I'm not quite sure, but somehow all those little idiosyncratic things just make that movie what it is, and just that you want to watch it again and go, I didn't catch that, or workshed. It's so weird. I don't know. But again, we made Super 8 movies silent with a audio cassette tape recorder for our soundtrack. So we had a variable speed projector for a while, silent projector, so you could slow down the picture so that the tape could speed up, because if the dialogue's out of sync, we went, all right, we saw enough movies where the dialogue, but the gunshot had to be in sync, and the pie hit had to be, and the punch had to be, so it was really a weird thing, and so sometimes we'd want to hit it. It was almost weird. So part of that's kind of like, there would be like a workshed, something so crude that we would go, we need a line there, and do it. And so somehow, some way, I don't know. It's just one of those. For forever, it was the word groovy, but now it seems like workshed's just like, what in the hell is going on? It's just another case of workshed violence.
It's those wonderful little things that just like stick with fans that you when you're making a film, I guess, I mean, you might never sort of like think of them in that way, but for some reason they just cement themselves into the consciousness of an audience, and then 30 odd years later people are still saying it. You're like, but that was just a random line.
Yeah, I've got to look back and see if that's even in the script. It could be. There's sometimes I go, oh no, and I might go, oh no, that was in there. That's right. It could very well be, because but on the other hand, it could have just been done in post where they go, wait, although I think he says it. Gosh, I haven't seen the movie in a while. All right, but I'm wondering. But it does sound dubbed. So even if he says it on camera, it seems like he says it away from camera. Oh, the memory.
Yeah, it's definitely dubbed.
Yeah.
Well, or you can say it on camera and still be dubbed too. Workshed. But you're right. It's an add-on, I guess, or whatever. But boy, oh boy, what a bunch of stuff.
Bruce Campbell is good enough that every time someone puts on a DVD of Evil Dead 2, he can throw his voice into your room and say workshed. It's not actually dubbed. It's just him doing it live, for all the fans.
Well, now suddenly that word doesn't mean anything. The word workshed, I'm not even quite sure. Words is like workshed. Is it one word? I don't. What is that thing? Is that? We never had a workshed. We had a garage, I guess. But it's a bunch of stuff. But anyway, good grief.
But it's crazy to think, because obviously going back to like the Super 8 films and the shorts that you did, like when you watch Evil Dead commentaries and that, they talk about the It's Murder beams, the big styrofoam kind of beams that they're beating Linda with. And it all comes from those early days of like, what you were doing around your neighborhood.
That's so funny. And I worked in a grocery store, a couple different ones, but this is a big chain back in Michigan. And we were shooting It's Murder, that movie where Sam's the crazy guy in the wheelchair, and I'm Dick Les there. And it was 1978, so this was that tacky early 70s Americana where we want to have wood beams, but they're these fake styrofoam half things with like a adhesive tape on the edges that you'd stick on your ceiling. It was so tacky. And they were obviously doing a remodel, and they were sticking out these garbage bins. I go, hey, these will be great. And we used them in It's Murder, and we also used them in Evil Dead and that whole graveyard scene. It was just a cheap prop that you could break over somebody's head, like a breakaway prop. It was perfect. It was so hilarious, and they somehow got that It's Murder beams. I was just shocked that Sam made a whole scene out of that using that prop. And those were left over from a super. I mean, but that's what we did. We were just kind of like, catch as catch can. Just talk about low budget,
I think it was was it Betsy Baker, or because we spoke to her the other week, she was saying that the It's Murder beams weren't as breakaway as she was told. they weren't as soft.
In It's Murder, Bruce doubled for one of the actors, and he was getting hit with the It's Murder beams. But that's Bruce. He never complained. He never complained. Never. He's doing all these. He never complained. It's amazing, and everybody did would be complaining. You always complain. It's just ridiculous. It's too much. And it's just all films are complaints, and he never complained. In fact, he did a stunt in one of Sam's early movies, and I was there, where he went head first into the river behind this alley of buildings in Birmingham, Michigan, and there was somebody poured concrete there. And he was bleeding. He hit it, so he dove 10 feet into the water and hit, because it was just below the surface level. And because he checked the area, and he kept filming, and his head's bleeding. We had at least have that on film. I mean, how horrible.
There's no concrete here. Throw your head in there.
Oh, man, what are you doing? I'd be like, get me to a hospital. I don't want to talk to anybody. I need to, because look what happened to Liam Neeson's wife. Don't mess around with that.
Jeez.
Oh, no.
Now, Sam, at the start of when we first called you, you out of nowhere mentioned something about Army of Darkness and Universal. Now, with the whole Ash vs. Evil Dead thing, and a lot of fans watching it noticed that the Army of Darkness part of the timeline seems missing. Is there anything you can elaborate on that?
No, I just realized that as I remember that was an issue was Army of Darkness going to be called the Evil Dead 3 or Medieval Dead? I mean, there were a few incarnations going around, some I'm sure, which I never even heard. And then until Universal finally said, we want to get away from that Evil Dead stuff, and let's call it Army of Darkness. Or, maybe it was called, I think it was called Ash versus Army of Darkness at one point. I think I remember seeing some, Tom Sullivan artwork on that.
We had on the credits.
Bruce Campbell
Bruce Campbell versus Army of Darkness, which was just awesome, because Ash is Bruce Campbell. Bruce Campbell is Ash.
I know, exactly. I was like, oh, man. So that was weird, and it became Army of Darkness, and Universal just didn't get behind it. They just kind of, and it's like, oh, man, that's so frustrating. But I'm glad now that there's, Ash versus Evil Dead. I mean, it's like really cool. And so I got to do some voices on that, which was fantastic. Oh. And hang out with Sam and Bob Murawski, one of the editors, and it was incredible. The funny thing is, I think it was the first episode I got to do, and I think I don't know if they're going to use it or not, but I revoiced that security guy in the trailer park. Watch out for that car, you idiot, or something. But then I got to I revoiced. They had some footage from Evil Dead 2, and it had one of the demons I had originally voiced, Evil Ed. And I'm like, and I go, Sam, I'm revoicing myself. You have, because there was a scene where they did flashback stuff in this Ash versus Army of Darkness versus Evil Dead, and And so I said, Sam thought that was funny. He goes, "Oh, you're revoicing yourself, eh?" So I just did more demon voices, mostly for a big fight scene that Ash has in his trailer where the demons are coming through, and he, the gun pops out of the trailer floor, and this crazy stuff. But it was like, and it's just so bizarre. But we were having a blast, but it's so ridiculous. But imagine what all these voiceover artists do every day. I'm like, man, that's got to be the most incredible, cool job, and you can just kind of show up, very casual, and your hair can be a bit messy. It's all great. What nice work if you can get it. But it was just great seeing Sam, and I just look forward to seeing the entire show. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm looking forward to it, and it just looked like a whole bunch of fun, man.
When you were doing that Evil Dead 2 and you saw like coming up with Deadite voices, what was like the inspiration? What was the meetings like of how you go about creating these random voices? Were you trying to like make like cartoonish kind of voices?
I think for me and from my perspective, I don't want to speak for Sam, but I think he was kind of coming from the same general arena. It's all Mercedes McCambridge from The Exorcist. I mean, when we were writing Evil Dead 2, Sam got creeped out when there's that one moment in The Exorcist when Max von Sydow, I think, is talking to Reagan, the possessed girl, and she's got that horrible Dick Smith makeup. And he asks her a question, and Reagan just simply goes,
Oh, that's horrible. Jesus.
Horrible. And my neighbor is the subliminal flash horror skull face in The Exorcist. Her name is Eileen something or other, but she's my neighbor.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, it's hilarious. I was like going, and it's like I see her at conventions. I mean, God, but that subliminal face is enough to scare me. But I think it was all, that beautiful, incredible voice that Mercedes McCambridge had. Great character actress. And what a name, Mercedes McCambridge. My goodness. But anyway, she just had that, "Your mother sews socks that smell." That was the TV version line.
That's fantastic.
It's just horrifying. And that's where that all came from. Obviously, you could see the inspiration in the first Evil Dead, too, because there's this. I mean, there's only one guy monster in Evil Dead, and he's not very effective. Bruce Ash pokes his eyes out. But they're all horror monsters. In fact, one of the titles of Evil Dead, when they were thinking of, we got to change it from Book of the Dead to whatever, was Fee Monster. You're like, Fee? That's the worst title I ever heard. Who came up with that one? That's terrible. My title was The Dead Don't Die. But, it's Evil Dead, and that's the way it is, and it somehow clicked. And how about that?
This worked out fantastically. I mean, obviously, we're now going back. What you saying, like 1978, and that. So, I mean, it's just phenomenal how the journey's gone for yourself and Sam and Bruce and Rob. I mean, what's it like getting out there to these conventions and sort of meeting fans, new generations of fans who are just so obsessed with the work you've done? It must be so amazing.
Oh, it's so cool. It's great to be, I don't know if I should say inspiring, but just, to create something that like people still care about and still be able to have a bit of a career and kind of do and have fun at it and have a bit of a fan base or whatever. Because that's, to me, when I came out here, I got to hang out. Well, it was a great time. My friend David J. Scow, the screenwriter, he introduced me to Robert Bloch, who wrote Psycho, my second favorite film of all time. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I get to meet Robert Bloch and hang out with him and then talk about, because Robert Bloch corresponded with the great H.P. Lovecraft. Oh, can you imagine that? And he's got letters. I've got letters from Robert Bloch now that he's passed. And it's just like, wow. And again, Evil Dead 2 with the disembodied parts, Robert Bloch wrote that brilliant film called Asylum on Amicus Film, where he chops up his wife and puts her in the freezer, Richard Todd, and then those parts come back and attack him. It's just like, oh my God, that's not Evil Dead stuff. I don't know what is. And it's just, I mean, he's, again, what an inspiration. And not just Psycho, but he's written so many of those great British Amicus films, like The Skull. It goes on. But that's the kind of inspiration and fun stuff. And I'd get a response and he'd answer my letters. How cool is that? I mean, man, but he was just a cool gentleman and all that cool stuff. And so these conventions, I mean, that was just at his house. But at these conventions, it's amazing what somebody can say or what a fan can do to go, oh, I Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I'm so glad you like that, or you still. And they always come up with photos and things like, what the heck is this? Oh, where'd you get that? Oh, that's cool. Of course, I'm sure I probably could find that stuff if I scoured the internet, but somehow I don't do that. But so I think it's great. I'm glad these things have an afterlife. But we also loved like the Three Stooges and a lot of those kind of classics stuff. I mean, I think most maybe entertainment might be disposable. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I just find that some stuff can kind of hang around. I'm just currently obsessed with Hammer films right now, and as I'm going to be making this film called The Temple in Bhutan, which is between China and India there.
Okay.
In the Himalayas,
All right.
if you will.
Nice.
And which is a really cool thing, but it's just first American film to be made there. And I think we only have one American actor. It's all a bunch of kids, and it's all good stuff. Ian Buchanan and Emrys Cooper. Just a lot of fun people happening and pulling this whole thing together. But big inspiration are the wonderful, timeless Hammer films. The one I'm not going to get off on a Hammer tear, but the thing is, because they made period pieces, the stuff is timeless.
Yep.
You know, Dracula 72 AD. It's like that's the one that failed. Christopher Lee with mutton chops and those facial hair that was so prevalent in the 70s, almost in every continent. Will you get that stuff out of here? I don't mind. Just the facial hair of the 70s, where it was so untrimmed, ungroomed, and I'm like, come on, it's terrible. But their incredible, timeless look, and that we just watched Brides of Dracula and Jack Asher. I don't know why Hammer got rid of him; he was their best DP. But this stuff just blows you away. I can't. And these movies were low budget. That's the funniest part of all. They're low budget. I swear. I think that
so ill.
Yeah, when I see John Woo's A Better Tomorrow, and I go, wow, that's amazing. Oh, he had 120 days to shoot it. Well, it better be that good. No offense, John Woo kicks ass, but it does take a little air out of the balloon when you go, 120 days. And then you see what Hammer was doing with the brilliant Terry Fisher and all the great everybody, the writers. It's just amazing. And me as a producer and a filmmaker, I'm just like, well, wait a minute, how in the world did they do that? I mean, Jack Asher took a while to light their films, and they had to economize, and I get that. They even still, after Jack left, their stuff was still. They were still hitting it out of the park. But again, Jack Asher was just like, because Horror of Dracula is my favorite Dracula film ever made. They'll never get any vampire anything. In fact, after I saw Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, although I love the opening, I just wish the whole movie stayed there. But after that, I had to take my girlfriend back and watch the Hammer Dracula just to kind of just get it right, get everything going. No, this is it. It will be timeless forever, and there you have it. So let's not quibble. But I'm off my Hammer. This is my huge, the most incredible influence that ever happened. And of course, it didn't hurt that when I was about 6 or 7, I got to see Dracula, Prince of Darkness, and Plague of the Zombies on a double bill. I think I was a bit too young to be even experiencing that, but boy, did that open my eyes. That's even by today's standards, they're pretty violent films.
Yeah, I think that it's quite funny you say that, because that is pretty much the reason that I'm here today. Is because I watched Evil Dead 2 when I was like I was way too young to watch them as well, and it just imprinted on me to a point where there's such a special place in my heart for the films.
That's so funny. Well, in fact, I took a gag from Plague of the Zombies, where Jacqueline Pierce is beheaded by Andre Morel with the shovel. And of course, by that time, by Evil Dead, they weren't they didn't start playing Plague of the Zombies on TV until like the early '80s in Detroit, anyway. So you go, back in the day, like where you going to get Plague of the, unless you buy a 35 or 16 print, where anybody going to see that? And I just went, oh, cool. So that is definitely. I mean, my goodness, Betsy's even kind of dressed like Jacqueline Pierce in Plague of the Zombies in a way. She's kind of got this white, I guess he put her in a sheet. But anyway, really bizarre, but that Plague of the Zombies was amazing. And by the way, a big influence too for us was Dawn of the Dead in terms of its graphic nature. Because when that woman, that Dawn of the Dead opens up and that woman gets that her neck, her shoulder bitten off, I'm like, what is that? Well, we didn't know. I didn't know what unrated meant. Believe me, I got religion then. I learned what was going on. And Sam Raimi and I also saw a WLLZ radio station promotion of a film in the mid-'80s called Reanimator. But we had no idea that was unrated. And boy, were we not prepared for the going down on Barbara. I'll end it right there. But, anyway, I was like, what is that? But again, that also was a bit of, obviously, an inspiration, certainly to the writing of Evil Dead 2, which I think was happening around that time. Anyway, what incredible stuff. But that's great. So how weird how this whole thing kind of snowballs and the inspiration just continues.
It's definitely. I mean, Scott, thank you so much for joining us on the show. I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure. I mean, I'm talking to a guy who has basically sort of you've written what I consider one of the greatest films of all time with Evil Dead 2, and also you did the only, and also you did the Only Good From Dusk Till Dawn sequel as well. So
absolutely, Scott, you're one of the reasons I've got Evil Dead tattooed on me as well, man.
Oh my God! I had dinner with Bruce about a year and a half ago, and he just showed me all the fans' Evil Dead Ash tattoos. It was truly just, you could almost just do a reality show on the whole thing. Pretty amazing, but that's incredible. Yet another art form, but that's crazy. But thank you so much, you guys. You guys are the greatest. I love your show, and I just really love all the enthusiasm. You guys rock.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Bully.
bully you. You take
Thanks
care.
for joining us, though. It's been a pleasure, dude.
All right, you guys have a great holiday season and all that jazz, and happy New Year and all. I hope all is well. Thank you so much.
Good luck on the temple as well.
That's it.
All
yeah.
Right. Thank you.
See you later, Scott.
All right.